Good evening, everybody. My name is Valentina. I am, who am I? I'm founder of She Community. We met with some of you perhaps a few weeks ago, and we had this topic of home well-being practices with three speakers, with three different experience and points of view, how to deal with current situation in the lockdown. And many of you expressed an interest to dive deeper into the topic of the last speaker, third speaker, about Ayurveda. So we asked kindly Dr. Sreejit again to come to our event and explain to the audience and give better tips and have more time to answer the question about Ayurveda. The science of life is a very old practice for 3,500 years. Those who are present here, some of you are very much aware about this and practice and apply it, and some perhaps will be less familiar. You also submitted great questions upfront when registering for event. We will have a session of 30-40 minutes after the presentation where we will answer the questions that you're interested. So for now, I will pass the word to our speaker. Again, I will introduce Dr. Sreejit, who is an Ayurvedic specialist from Kerala with 18 years of experience of treating the patients all over the world. I don't know how many thousands of patients he treated, those who hopefully became happy and healthy from over 100 nations, and family with 5 generations of Ayurvedic practitioners, and also is actively helping young doctors to shape their career, mentoring them online. And interesting moment is that Dr. Sreejit is one of the only 4 practitioners in the world of Kuti therapy, and I hope we will have time at the end to talk more about that, because this is a very interesting practice. So, okay, I pass my word to Dr. Sreejit. Please start your presentation.
Yeah, before I start, the Indian style of greeting everyone is Namaste, and I'm sure all the yoga people are very aware of this. Typically, this means the goodness in me salutes the goodness in you. So that is how Indians have been addressing everyone who has come to India, welcoming from the core of their psyche and heart. So let us start in this Namaste salutation. So I think what can be done is let us start into the PowerPoint directly, and we can always make sure that the videos, we'll figure out any mechanism for that to play it up. But let us get into the subject, and many of the things would be very familiar to everyone, I know. So I'll just make that sharing the slide here. Let me get this for you. Let's see. So do you get it here on the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet. We were using that. I'll be getting into another jinx of it. 1 second. I see it here. I don't know why it doesn't make it. And now do you find no? Not yet?
Not yet. Just do it the same way you did earlier. So I have
that's what I'm looking at.
practiced, and it did all work before.
Yeah. That's very strange. In fact, that's strange. I don't know. Let me just get this 1 second. Very strange. I'm sorry.
Tonight we have issues with Facebook. Now we can.
Yeah. Is it there now? I see it. I don't know if it's at your side.
No.
Not yet?
Not yet.
Mhm. That's very much. Uh-oh.
Yes.
Or
Only small
maybe
part. Only
there's
small.
something happening at least. Let me see actually if it comes up this time. I see like it's like launching. That's what it shows.
Okay, it's showing a top.
Something's opening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
perfect.
see it. I don't know if it's happening at your side.
It's
I see it here.
yes.
It
All it's
doesn't.
fine. You can continue. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, this is dedicated to every human being, as I always remind myself, for everyone who made and makes and will make this world a better place. So, any task in India, I think elsewhere, every part of the world, we would always dedicate it to somebody or a group of people or some event. So, I would start in this manner. And of course, Ayurveda is the first topic we are getting into, and how it is useful for the incurable diseases, or the simplest thing with incurable diseases is immunity management, or enhancing immunity, or enhancing health, or to remain healthy, because immunity is a factor that is inherent to us. We just have to preserve it and enhance it. So we'll have sufficient time for Q&A, and we already have the questions also. So somewhere in north of India or Indian subcontinent, you see the slide is basically of what is called as rhinoplasty, the nose being reconstructed, typically after wartime injuries or mutilations. This is just to share with you that the Indian subcontinent had a very fantastic healthcare system that had as advanced procedures or surgeries, so which obviously meant they were very familiar with the ideas of septic measures, and they were aware of the knowledge about microbes, be it viral, fungal, bacterial, in their own means. So this is just to show that connection, and all of us know that this is easily 3,500 years old system, and it typically aims at prolonging life, and how best it can be invigorated, basically adding life to the life. This is what we always say. Many times life has no life for many people, but Ayurveda aims at preventing diseases and curing diseases also. And why it becomes relevant in today's context is that, in spite of the best efforts by the modern medicine, still there are some lacunae, some areas that are not satisfactorily addressed. So that is why Ayurveda has role even now. And I say this based on my experience of what we would call as the you know nationalities who have come here. They never had a very satisfactory outcome in spite of the best care they availed. And that always gave me the conviction that Ayurveda still has a role for many people, if not 100%, but to a very decent amount of success. And it's nice to use the word health seeker than use the word patient. We need to have a situation to cure ailments of a patient, as it is usually used the word, that is disease management, which is the primary reason somebody would approach a doctor or a healthcare professional. It's very rare for people to walk into a doctor's clinic and say, I want to prevent a disease. Very unlikely, but the trend is now getting to that way. And second is, of course, the preventive measure of health management, whatever health we have and how best we can make it. So it's a very simple idea when to try Ayurveda. So most people, they have come to us or to other parts of Kerala for Ayurveda healthcare when they find that it's a hopeless situation by the mechanisms they have already tried out. So that sense of hope brings them to India. Not that it is successful every time, but majority it is. It also brings me to the point, who would be the best candidates for desiring, you know, if somebody is desiring for a not satisfactorily dealt condition to be made better, they would of course opt for Ayurveda. Those who desire for a body detox, is such a fashionable and trendy word anyway. Those who wish for a psychological rejuvenation or mental rejuvenation, and those who wish for a better immunity, and most importantly, those who wish to delay the effects of aging, they typically go for Ayurveda. So it's a broad spectrum of people, from the so-called patients who have disease to those who want to augment and enhance the quality of their life through better health. And it's nearly the similar or nearly the same definition that WHO, the World Health Organization, and Ayurveda proposed regarding health, because more than the absence of disease or just the absence of disease, it is a state of physical, psychological, social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. So this brings me to the point that we do have many situations where people come to us, they don't have a proof of a disease, but they don't feel that they are the best version of their health or their energy or enthusiasm. So that is why it's very difficult in medicine to very black and white categorize every time. Majority it can be, but many times it's a gray zone. And of course, Kerala is famous for the word Panchakarma. I thought I should be just speaking such terminologies or the keywords as we call, which most people opt to try for uh, their healing experience. So Panchakarma is one such very, very popular and appropriate word, which we would call as a ultimate detox. Pancha is 5 and karma is procedure, and basically therapeutic procedure. It's a gift of Ayurveda to the world, and it has a very deeper, far-reaching implication in the long run to prevent ailments. And it's not just about eliminating toxins. Of course, it cures ailments. It eradicates what we say pre-morbid condition. Pre-morbid is typically you detect a disease in a very early stage and you kind of eliminate it. And it's equally effective in maintaining the vitality of the tissues, which is just reflecting to the youthfulness. And that, of course, has a enhancement of immunity from the disease. So all are very connected from a point of detox to the point of immunity enhancement, very, very connected. So that brings us to the point, what is dosha? Because dosha is an umbrella term. That's again a very popular word like Ayurveda, Kerala, dosha, Panchakarma, detox, the very, very common words. So it's just like a simple term that would encompass or that would make a category of the different structural and functional details of human body, 3 compartments. So if there are similarly happening functions, they are categorized according to these 3. We call it Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And if you take real life examples, when Vata goes wrong, we do find many of our friends with sleeplessness and memory loss, cracked feet, dry skin, multiple such, which are so easily identifiable in normal life. It doesn't have to be as severe as having a deformity, like if you have a finger like this and the finger goes on like this, like it's a deformity. So not necessarily that severe. And of course, brain atrophy is so common, memory loss is so common, and we do see many people in severe anxiety and phobia at a psychiatric plane. This is how Vata is identified. There's a whole list of diseases. The list is long, but very distinguished. Coming to the Pitta, as we say, and we easily identify it with people who have boils in the face or acne, so common, hyperacidity, or you always feel like a acid regurgitation in the chest area or even the abdomen. We have people with ulcers in the stomach or duodenum. We have people who have cough, which is yellow and green, but not white. Like the phlegm is that color, you need antibiotics, gangrene, and multiple such bleeding disorders. They all come in the Pitta segment. The psychiatric conditions of maniac, we see many people hyper energy and very maniac. They all in the Pitta group, to say so. And coming to Kapha, it's very easy to find many people stuffed nose, running nose, coughing, which is white in color, high cholesterol, block in the heart, tumor, malignancy. It's all like very simple, benign to very severe conditions. All come in the Kapha narration. And many more things. I just made easy to relate points. And the psychiatric conditions like depression is so common that we would put in the Kapha segment. This brings me to a certain finding of similarity between Ayurveda and modern medicine. And as we relate to it, like all the diseases can fairly be cataloged into three segments: those which are degenerative or related with Vata, which are infective, inflammatory, are Pitta, and neoplastic are with Kapha. So this is how it is interesting that there's so much of similarity between the modern medicine and Ayurveda. But if somebody is asking me if knowing dosha alone would help, I would very humbly say no. We have many conditions where people are infected with hepatitis B or hepatitis C and there is no symptom at all. It's known by a simple blood test. We have many people with a very advanced stage of carcinoma or cancer, and it's just found by an accidental blood test without any symptoms. So these are situations where I have no answer as an Ayurvedic doctor, but then of course we have means and measures to evaluate and detect it. So we accept and integrate whatever the modern life science has given to society. So this is why I thought I should share that. And when we say Ayurveda against incurable diseases or immunity boosting, you can see the fifth point is the body immunity. In all the speeches, wherever I'm invited, I make sure that we highlight what is with us. Basically, the incurability, of course, depends upon many factors: age of the patient, the chronicity of the disease, the stage of the multiple factors. So, in that, the prime agenda is immunity, because the human body and the mind has a fantastic ability and urge to heal. So all the doctors are typically banking on that and making it easier. So immunity is not only something that we have, but something we can enhance. We call it immune modulators, different kind of herbs and practices available. Immunity is more than just having certain chemicals or herbs or whatever that is external in nature. It's also about certain practices we follow, so that we can always enhance what we already have with us. So those kind of easy to do practices would be shared here. But as we know that when it comes to body immunity enhancement, it helps us to delay the disease onset. If somebody is familial wise or hereditary as we call, having a certain tendency for a disease, a better immunity helps to delay that, if not deny that. And obviously, if the disease is already there, at least if we could avoid the complications, it makes it easier. And that, of course, leads to better quality of life. And worst case, we have people who get into what is called as a decent farewell when death is very near and inevitable. But then it's no denying that even in very advanced stages of cancer or some fairly incurable ailments, there are exceptional situations of miraculous cure. That's all depend upon the immunity, which is what we always give importance to. So anyway, breathing is the most important thing that we should be modulating, because the first And the last thing we do in our life is obviously breathing. There's plenty of breathing techniques. Even the Chinese have this Qigong and whatever group of breathing exercises always augment a better quality of oxygen circulating. Then food has its own role. Lifestyle has its own role of modification. And there are some detox processes. Being this is a yoga group, I thought I will include this aspect of a moderate detox at home level, because Sadhyo Vaman, as we say, is what is Kunjal in yoga, and what you may call in yoga Shankar Prakshalan is Sadhyo Virechan in Ayurveda. So both yoga and Ayurveda being siblings, there's a lot of commonality. And of course, there are some differences too, but there's a lot of common. So these are very fairly doable at home procedures once in 3 months. Of course, there are immune boosting herbs which always help us to make it easy. Ashwagandha is a very common word. Tulsi or the Indian basil is a very common name. And Triphala is just universal word and herb. So the list is long, but they are all easily doable in one's home. Like procuring them, I don't know how it's possible to get in Ukraine and what are the situations that helps somebody to fetch it, but fairly these are very easily available and easily doable. But it is very important that somebody has a clear idea from a proper physician of Ayurveda. Okay, this is my situation and this is the herb that would suit me the best, with a lot of intricacies that are easily sorted out in a consultation or any guidance. So anyway, coming to the breathing pattern, that's something we just took it for granted, and we not necessarily always control its quality or its method of usage. So it's a good exercise, of course, for the lungs. At the same time, it's very important that it is not overdone. Ayurveda very clearly mentions that pranayama done in the wrong manner is harmful and creates certain neurological diseases, which is definitely not something that anyone would be much aware of if they don't take pranayama very seriously. It's more than a breathing exercise. Its implications are much deeper. And very simple method that we follow uh, in our place, because there are multiple styles of breathing and patterns. We have a very simple method of inhaling. If it is 1, 2, 3, 4, we make sure that it's double the time exhaling, like double the time. So this is what we call as universal breathing. It's so easy, anyone can do anywhere, instead of very regimental 1, 4, 2 format or multiple other formats people have. You have Kapala Bhati, you have Bastrika, and also multiple methods are there. But let us always make it simple. The very fact that if somebody is aware and focusing on somebody's own breathing pattern itself is a slightly meditative process, and it has a calming effect on the mind. It has a very good de-stress effect. And of course, we all know that if somebody is angry or somebody is crying or sobbing, all this, the breath is easily affected, and the balance is reclaimed by a proper breathing. In fact, we all are aware that breath is, of course, the connection link between the body and the mind. And all our shoutings, the angers that come out of the shoutings, rather the shouting that comes out of the anger, the sobbing, the crying, the laughing, all these emotional aspects are nothing but modified respiratory activities. So breath has a big link into the connection between body and mind, and also the oxygen concentration always makes for a better immune boosting. What does Ayurveda do in today's modern society? Because in most of the presentations, I am conveyed to speak about the glory of Ayurveda, but that hardly encourages me. I always prefer to highlight the importance Ayurveda can have. So it does prevent a lot of worsening of a disease from a inflammatory situation to a later degenerative stage. So that happens very, very effectively for us to be able to prevent any disease worsening. And that is a big achievement, because If certain diseases cannot be cured, they are better arrested from going worse. So Ayurveda has very clear-cut answers for many diseases depending on the stage. And that is always possible when a proper guidance is happening. Coming to certain practices, starting with stress, what you see on the screen is about 10 to 15 drops of a herbal oil being placed on the bregma. Is like, if you can see mine, this is a bregma. I mean, if you take from ear to ear, reach the central point, this is a bregma. So this is a spot where you see small kids till the age of 1. The fontanelle, they don't fully close. So that is a spot where we apply. It has a very good sleeping effect. It's a very good effect on the systolic hypertension, the upper one. And of course, it's very common these days, a very heavy office work, and people come with headache, neck pain, very common. So these muscle tensions are much relieved. Obviously, with any procedure, I always request a disclaimer of a caution, because if somebody has what is called a scalp edema, it's very easily elicited. Scalp edema is when you squeeze yourself or move your fingers along the scalp, wherever, I mean, your physician or even you don't feel comfortable and you feel like painful or screaming. It's called scalp edema. There, this is counterproductive. I just put that word caution there. Otherwise, majority can use it. Talking about the going from top to bottom, the eyes. After the age of 35, all of us start to develop cataract, and it can end up in a surgery after 25 or 30 years later. But the medicine that you see on the screen, it is very, very fantastic to prevent the development into a mature cataract, as we say. So in the very initial stages, this has a very good effect on the eye's health, more so the retina's health. Well, retina is the last portion, the most posterior portion of the eye anyway. And diabetes being very common, it's very common to have bleeding from the eyes or rather than the retina. This is one medicine that is so much available over the counter that it helps such bleedings not to happen. And that's why it's very popular in Kerala. So people in Kerala have better eye health thanks to this medicine, even if they have diabetes. And but again, no, any medicine used, I would always exercise caution, as my disclaimer there. This is one therapy where it's like applying herbals into the nose. And as I mentioned there, nose is a gateway to the head. The impact on high stress is fantastic by this procedure. Again, the herbs need to be very precisely selected and implemented. There's a very good effect on the sinus health. And then, of course, the brain health has a lot of significance with this nasya. It's something that is so easily doable at home, but you need the right kind of medicine because it depends on your exact medical condition. There are some herbal nasal drops that are kind of universal, but then whenever something is put, and we know the critical plate here, we know the nose is gateway to the head, we need to be always, of course, moderately cautious of what we are applying inside our body. But this is something that is easily doable. This is a modified method of doing Panchakarma. And Neti is something that you can relate. I won't compare, but something to relate with. And the practice in Kerala, like tea and coffee, every part of the world agreed, is the idea of having the best detox water in Ayurveda. And we can go up to 10 gram maximum, but typically 3 gram is the least we need. So when we boil it at homes, we expect at least 4 people to have it. So we generally say 10 gram ratio. But if it's a singular person, 3 gram of dry ginger, if not wet ginger, and coriander seed, it is the most detox water as per Ayurveda. And I've mentioned as very self-explanatory about the basil leaf. We may not get it everywhere, but the cumin seed has a fantastic ability for gastrointestinal health. So basically, different herbs, they can be made into a simple tea, and they always have very good augmenting health property. There are many who are lactose intolerant. I'm aware of that. Milk doesn't go well with many people, but what I am speaking here is a kind of a probiotic source. It's called herbal buttermilk. Milk is a misnomer term there, and butter is also a misnomer term there because both of them are not inside it anyway. But that's how it is called anyway. The buttermilk is where you dilute yogurt and you virtually skim off the fatty portion. Unlike in India, I'm aware that in Europe and elsewhere, you have different grades of yogurt and you can nearly get fat-free kind of situation. I am aware of that. But India, we do take the butter out of it and it is utilized with certain herbs which are carbonative in nature, like cumin, like black pepper, like turmeric, curcuma, and these kind of very easily available herbs or spices. And this has fantastic effect on the gastrointestinal health. And that is very key element for immunity. Immunity aspects in Ayurveda are hugely connected to the gastrointestinal tract. This is just to show you a typical Kerala meal. Well, it's a big meal, but doesn't happen every day like that. But generally, the science of Ayurveda recommends that a food should have the 6 different tastes: sweet, sour, rock salt, pungent, bitter, astringent. So yeah, it's very self-explanatory. We need different ingredients because all of them have different biochemical effects on the body. Well, I'm not talking about professionals who have to run marathons and Ironman and Iron Lady kind of endeavors, but for a normal life with a fairly decent amount of exercise, sun salutation is something that is very effective. You can save the time. Instead of going 20 minutes back and forth to the gym by vehicle or to any different place, you can easily finish off 20 or 21 sets of the sun salutation in a matter of 25 minutes. A lot of time saving. You may call it a cardio exercise, you may call it stretching, whichever, or synchronization of stretching with breathing. But this is very, very useful and something which done under a professional's guide is very fantastic. And in Kerala, I mean, most of us, we prefer this because of its safety, because many times any kind of improper endeavor in a gymnasium can always harm the muscles, but this is so safe, so effective. I don't have exact data, but I have read that one set of sun salutation apparently kills about 14 calories, so which is nice if that is true. But it is something that can go up to even 21 sets. I'm aware of people, I myself was doing 50 sun salutation a day till I developed symptoms of disc herniation sciatica, and I just behaved myself well and came down to 21. In the Tantra format in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, they use 21 times. Otherwise, the yogic people here use typically 12 sets, left and right becoming one set. So this is very useful. The take of Ayurveda in exercise regime is that we should not overdo it, that we feel very drained and exhausted. Any exercise, however taxing it may be to the body or to the muscles, should not end up being very debilitating effect. It should be giving a refreshing effect, or else you have overdone it. This is what is Ayurveda's take. I understand that won't be enough for adventure sports, for extreme sports, for competitive marathons, whichever. I understand that, but Ayurveda definitely believes in strengthening the body by a step-by-step mechanism, and not to do in a rush or in high intensity in a short time. So moderation is a mantra as far as Ayurveda is concerned when it comes to exercises. This may not be pleasant for athletes and other professional sports people, but then we are in normal life situations. Oil massage is a very common Ayurvedic therapy, and I've mentioned it in the right conditions. And what does the right condition means? It's too much in these 30 minutes I would have to explain, but I can always tell you that it's a very misused therapy. I use the word misuse because there are many situations of inflammation in the body and the oil massage is done, and that is very counterproductive. So I thought I should speak of an information that is not very explicitly mentioned in the search engines. And that's precisely why I created a slide that can be a bit thought-provoking. The benefits of oil massage everyone knows because it is anti-degenerative, it's anti-aging, it is very good for neurological conditions, very good for the skin texture. The list is long in terms of its benefits, but let us discuss about a thing that is not found in the search engines. That's what I mentioned here. It needs to be the right indication, and that's what I have just mentioned previously. There are many people who get messed up with their health by the wrong kind of oil massage or the wrong timing of selection of oil massage. This doesn't come very easily in the internet domain, this kind of information, but that's our clinical experience, and so that's why I thought it's important. Well, this is something, because this is a yoga group, as I was told, yoga people easily relate to these kind of practices. This is something called Kuti Praveshika Rasayana. Kuti is a hurt, as you can see, and Praveshika is entering. Rasayana is the process of anti-aging or delaying the effects of aging, or making sure that the vitality of the body is maintained as far as possible. So this knowledge was almost lost to the public, and I'm happy I was trained by somebody who was trained by somebody, and that somebody was trained by somebody who lived 185 years. There is a book by a British magistrate about him, Tapaswiji Maharaj, as he was known. And his samadhi was in 1955 at the age of 185. And I mean, it's a recorded person, and it's a known person. So this is something I thought it's relevant in today's life and times, because many people get into vipassana, many get into many kind of reclusive retreats, and this is also a kind of sensory inhibition that we bring to ourselves under the professional guidance of a proper Ayurvedic doctor, and the effect is like halting the effects of the aging process. And you call it age delaying therapy of Ayurveda, but I would lead it to the connection with the darkness. That's why I put the topic of moderate your screen time, because the kuti per se is a dark room where the normal sunlight doesn't get in. There may be dim light effect. The air comes in, but not the wind. Basically, the elements of nature are kind of cut off. So like in the womb of your mother, and it has 3 layers of the building, and it's kind of a cave with a temperature of 27, 28, 29 kind of degrees Celsius usually. So it's like complete elimination of outer influences on the human senses, and that's why the screen time has been mentioned. It has a fantastic effect in the body for sure, and this kind of sensory inhibition being done, along with that the specific herbs for ailments used, we would call it like elixir kind of medicines, the objectives are met with a disease cure or this youthfulness, whatever parameter is taken care by suitable herbs for the same. So it is something that is the next most popular thing, and recorded history, not even 100 people have done it. I already have 37 people who have done with me. So remaining is to 2 other doctors, and 3 doctors actually more. So I would say that most of the Panchakarma procedures are given a higher level of significance and efficacy by this process of Kuti Praveshika Rasayana. It is the ultimate therapy. Yeah, I think now it's time for the question and answer. And for that, I would easily say that noble thoughts and deeds happen all around us. What else can we wish for a better world? I think Valentina would take over for the question and answers. I was more keen to complete this as early as possible so that we interact. Interaction is more important than presentation. It's very monotonous to be one-way speaking. And yes, I'm ready for the next.
Okay, and experiencing it is even better than interacting and talking about that. Okay, we have a number of questions that were submitted earlier that I can start asking one by one, but I would rather ask our audience, because now we have this unique opportunity that you're all in Zoom and you can ask your questions directly, or you have other questions So if you raise your hand, I will give you an opportunity actually to ask your question yourself. And if we have still some you doubting or thinking of the question, I will start from those that are ready. So if you somebody raises the hand, I will be if you know how to do that in the chat. So I will be giving you an opportunity to talk and ask.
May I ask?
Okay, sure.
Yes, my question sent through email was, what is the relation of vaccines of Ayurvedic aspect? And is there a need for vaccines?
Yeah. Can I start or?
Yes.
Okay. Ma'am, the fact is definitely vaccines are relevant and significant. We have eradicated, the humanity's progress has eradicated many diseases by vaccines. That's one side of it. So I would always lean towards it. And vaccines are typically immune stimulants in the body. And this kind of a practice was happening somewhere what we call as West Bengal now, that is east of India. There was a mechanism, something similar, people were doing it. So it is not unknown to India in that sense of it. So I would definitely, as a practitioner, I would always lean towards the vaccine. But then we also know that there are people who had the vaccine, but they don't get the benefit. That is unfortunate. But my answer would be definitely yes. Vaccines were definitely not happening around 2000 years ago, agreed. But methods of invigorating them were used because Ayurveda was using mercury, was using arsenic, was
Yes.
using cold. So they were a kind of vaccine effect in the body.
Okay.
So it is just that it's a different format now.
Thank you. And what we have to do with this actual problem with vaccines that are poisonous for everybody?
Yeah, actually, no, this is such a debatable matter. I know of some very famous Ayurvedic doctors who haven't given any vaccine to their kids. Well, that's brave. But then, instead of being worried about the side effects of the same, if you would try to capitalize the benefits of it. And that is why I would say still go for the vaccines.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Anna, for the question. Anybody else who would like to ask the next one? Or I will be moving to the question that was asked by Eduard. Are there any methods of self-diagnostic, anything like blood testing or blood pressure measuring in traditional medicine? So is there a way that you can self-detect your issue?
Well, the best practice is not to detect too much of one's own, but definitely to be aware and to be cautious, or rather be mindful of things that can be a very initial stage of a disease. So I would lean to that. I think the intention of the question is to know whether we have some alarm signs in the body that can help us to be more alert and seek a proper medical guidance. So in terms of self-diagnosis, these are two parts of the reply. Like, if we find that any part of the body is making us aware of it, then we know that we are in trouble. If somebody has a headache, we know that there's something we have to get into. If somebody has a difficulty in accepting food, even in one's mind, or nausea, we know that's something wrong with the gastrointestinal system. When somebody is breathless while climbing at least 10 or 15 steps, we know something is with the lungs or heart, more precisely. So, and if somebody feels that he or she cannot really bend forward to touch the floor with their fingers and keeping the knee straight, we are kind of thinking there's a spasm in the whole spine, or anything of that nature that is neurological in nature. So I would say, and somebody has a bleeding from any part of the body, any orifice of the body, and somebody has a change in the skin color, making it look a bit different, or somebody has a ulcer that doesn't heal. So these are the ways we just have to tell ourselves that something is not really suitable for us. Let us get into a higher level of understanding the body's problem. So this is what I would lean towards than making self-diagnosis, which may be limiting and misguiding sometimes. So I'm not against the mindfulness. Yeah, mindfulness is very, very important, if that is the idea of the question.
So the next question we have in the chat, asked by Marina. Let me translate it straight away into English. So she says that people say that the best effect, like the most curable ones, are the herbs that grow in the area where you were born, yeah, and your area. And when it's taken from far away, from some exotic or faraway places, they don't have such a good positive effect. What is your comment on that? And because for Ukrainians, Indian herbs are really very alien and exotic. So how can you comment on this?
Yeah, the efficacy is never a problem. So I will slightly and respectfully disagree to that, because efficacy of a herb is everywhere if you have it. So it is definitely no doubt in the efficacy. But some herbs are grown by God in that locality to suit the health conditions of that locality, because just as we have coconut in Kerala, it suits us. There are many herbs which are indigenous or local because the ailments are specific to that area. So in that sense, yes, some herbs are specific to the locality and it helps. But it doesn't mean that if you have black pepper, an example, if it is not growing in your place, comes to somewhere else, you will definitely feel better with your appetite or with your cold or flu, and it will still have that antiviral effect. If you use coriander seed and boiled water of the same, if you consume it, then it causes a lot of diuretic effect. Plenty of urination would happen. That makes the swellings or the, I would say, subcutaneous swelling or the edema in the body to go away. So there is no denying the effect will happen. The acceptability may be a challenge, rarely so, because I'm not used to it. No, so the body may take a while to accept it, but otherwise there is no denying the effect of it.
Okay.
Thank you for your answer.
Welcome.
Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
I'd like to ask you about autoimmune diseases, especially Hashimoto, Crohn's disease, and ulcerative colitis. How can Ayurveda do with those, and in generally, what Ayurveda can do with autoimmune diseases? Because I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner and I am practice in Lviv, and I have used to use excuse me, different Ayurvedic remedies, medicine, but my question is how to deal with autoimmune diseases. It's such a big problem, you know.
Yeah, autoimmunity has a big connection with intestines as per Ayurveda, or the term I would use is Agni, that is the metabolic system. The three specific conditions you have mentioned, well, all of them are tough, and the curability is based upon the stage of the disease, because if a certain disease is treated earlier, and in a younger body, it of course behaves better. So, given this reality that some varieties are inherently very difficult to be cured, and also the fact that the comorbidities or other parameters of health or ill health have an influence on it, ulcerative colitis is easier and a bit tougher than that is Hashimoto, and more tougher than that is Crohn's, based on my experience dealing with this. So the autoimmunity has a clear component of modifying one's food and lifestyle aspects, which is very, very important, because more than lifestyle, the food has a big role. And the many people, when they alter their food habits, they find a lot of improvement. But I can still tell you, there are people who do everything perfect, all perfect lifestyle, all perfect food, herbs, everything, but they still keep suffering. It's one of the few mysteries I have always found in my life. I've come across nearly 250,000 patients in the last, even if say 18 years of independent practice. But from 1998, when I started involving, I mean, nearly 22 years now, involving with patients under the tutelage of the best practitioners in Ayurveda in Kerala, I've realized that for no matter what you do, nearly 10% of the patients, they don't improve. Be your best medical advice, the best compliance they show, everything, but it doesn't respond. So in that comes this autoimmunity. And that takes me to a league that many a times there are more dimensions of health or ill health than what we think about. And I've made a 41 minutes video in my website that I have mentioned about these kind of extra aspects. And coming to the specificity of the ulcerative colitis, definitely we can get rid of the steroid enemas that are given, and it is usually a curable entity. But if the person's body weight hasn't very drastically gone off. Hashimoto's definitely takes at least 1 year before we even think of reducing the reliance on the Western medicine. It's also very tricky. Many a times we have the blood values behaving to us, but the person is still suffering with the symptoms, and vice versa also. Crohn's, if it is multiple openings to the surface of the body, it is very difficult. Crohn's, it's a very tough situation. Symptoms may improve, but the cure may remain a bit elusive. This is about the three conditions that you have spoke about. And what we can do in autoimmunity is basically what is called as Rasayana. Rasayana are the herbs that are immune modulators also, other than other properties they make in the body. And Triphala is one very common medicine that gels very easily with most of the conditions. But it is always to be combined with medicine specific to the disease. So these are very easily professionally guidable entities.
Mhm. May I one more question?
Yeah, welcome.
Tell me, sir, how long we can use such remedies like Vrihatvat Chintamani Ras or Ekangvi Ras and such other remedies with metal, you know, rasa.
Yes. Mercury.
Excuse me, is it, could I use it, for example, for half and years or a year or more? Is it, isn't dangerous for my patients?
Actually, I should start with the answer that the answer is no, it is not dangerous. But then I would also say yes, if somebody doesn't take care of the food habit, like having mercury or gold and such. I mean, gold is a noble metal, it's not heavy metal. Say mercury, cadmium, lead group of medicines are the ones which are a bit challenging. I would answer you in two ways, or rather two answers. The answer first is no, if the person adheres to a vegetarian format of food and the discipline in lifestyle and food is there. That's why then the answer is no, there is no side effect or no difficulties. The answer is yes. If the person just goes for a toss, it's a very erratic life. He eats, drinks what he likes, and he's abusing his body. The answer is definitely yes, there will be trouble. So this is the very clear distinction we have to make. Coming to the point of the duration, why I tell this to you, I every day have gold, diamond, mercury, every day, personally. So, and I think I'm okay so far. That's my impression. So it's a nanoparticle we use, and silver also. All bhasmas, basically bhasmas. So why I'm saying this to you is that most of the mercury compounds and arsenic compounds that we use in our patients of oncology, at least, we generally tell them have it for 3 months, halt it for a month, and restart.
Okay.
And if you have any symptoms, please don't ignore it. Ayurveda can create side effects if it's done wrong way. The quality of medicine is also a matter of debate sometimes with some companies of medicine manufacturing. So we tell them, if you have any doubts, have the liver function test and kidney function test. Everything normal, you don't feel bad, go ahead.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. You both guys moved to another dimension of discussion.
I like these kind of questions. They are more thrilling than what is in the internet already. It's no thrill.
I think we have to connect you directly so you can speak about the topics. Meanwhile,
Is he still listening to us, Mr. Taras? Is he listening to us?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. She will definitely give my email address, my personal email address, so that you can always send me questions. I will very honestly reply to you.
Okay. I have been practicing for 3 years with different Ayurvedic medicines, and
Yeah.
I had very good, very just, you know, uh, very
Impact.
nice effects with using these different remedies, especially rasa
Yeah, yeah,
medicine.
yeah. That's mercury.
Mercury, gold, just brilliant experience.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to some next questions, please.
Thank you.
We have too many left. So we have a question from Eduard. Is this better to stick to a born prakriti throughout the life, or can you switch between Vata, Pitta, Kapha without any harm for your health?
The prakriti never changes because that is like our DNA, if I use that word. But definitely we have to make sure that if I'm a Kapha prakriti person, let me make practices which are Kapha kept without getting deranged. Very important. So it is like, how to say, we understand that this is good for my body, and I modify my lifestyle and food or whichever. Let me use the word Pitta Prakriti. If I'm a Pitta Prakriti, that's easy way to explain it. So typically Pitta person is very angry, can be very impulsive, a bit of maniac, and a very hot tempered reaction to things by the body and the mind also. Cannot withstand heat much, quickly gets into body heat, is susceptible to hyperacidity, etc. So this is how Pitta can be easily detected. Gets early gray or early bald like me, it's all Pitta. But these are realities you can't escape. However, if you have ghee regularly, it's good for Pitta. If you have regular Shirodhara, if not possible, at least cooling therapies for your head or cooling property oils applied on your head. If you have amalaki, the Indian gooseberry, or such kind of herbs or the sweet licorice, these are all are things that keeps your pitta from going wrong. So this is how I would say somebody can augment the health. And at the same time, if the person is not much alcoholic, brings down his alcohol consumption. So he protects his liver, because pitta people can get the liver quickly bad. So in that sense, they easily have a situation where they can prevent a lot of bad influences of food or other materials if they follow that. Yes, I'm a pitta person, I better take care of these activities and be moderate with my habits. So that is what I would say the solution for it.
Okay, and then next question, very much related to that, was addressed earlier by Marina. How to make sure you select proper food style? How can you monitor that impact on health?
Now, the fact is, more than the food style, it's the food selection is time oriented. The very first thing in food is timely consumption of food. And when I say timely, it means when you're hungry, you need to have the food. Agreed, you're hungry at 1 o'clock and a meeting is not getting over till 1:30, professional obligations, you suffer the hyperacidity, you suffer the bloating in the abdomen, and then you got really challenged your neuroendocrine system. Agreed, that can happen. We don't deny that. So in Ayurveda, more than the item of food, it's the regularity, the punctuality, that is very much attributed as important. Second is, of course, the food's nature by itself. Typically, see, I'm not being critical, but having seen people from 104 nations, I don't understand yet how even the so-called superpowers in the world, without naming any, their country's people or the nation's people are having ice cold water in their food timing. I just don't understand when you are dousing the internal fire, if I may use that word for Agni, there for metabolism. I don't understand. I don't understand the idea of raw salads when we know that any raw medicine or any raw material takes more time to digest. So it's a lot of energy spent on processing it. I don't understand why people don't relate to steamed vegetables or slightly cooked vegetables at least. That makes the digestion easy. I still don't understand how can you have food again before your last meal is over. I would still not understand why do you tax your body with multiple snackings when you're not really hungry. So I don't understand these things. So why I say this to you, many of the people who have come, almost everyone, when we tell them these simple facts, I know of people in the name of fasting or intermittent fasting, somebody's as lean and trim and fit like our host Valentina. And if that kind of a person tells, I'm going for fasting, you are a Vata Prakriti person and you are provoking Vata by fasting too much. You are screwing up your, sorry for my language, but that's what's happening. You're messing up your neuroendocrine system. So this is why I'm telling you points more than the food item per se, because there's no point me telling you about roti, sabzi, idli, dosha kind of food items of Kerala, because I don't know your food items anyway, but these are the practices that make it easy. And I can easily guide you in my website called agnivesh.info that you see in the left-hand side of the presentation slide. I've made a full compilation of food habits of Ayurveda, 9 different article kind of narration. It answers this more elaborately.
Okay, and since you touched this fasting, that was one of the questions. So please tell about dry fasting for every dosha, if it's possible at all.
Actually, the one with Pitta doesn't deserve fasting. Children don't deserve fasting. Very old means 70 plus people typically don't deserve fasting unless they have a disease. And the very Vata nature people should not be fasting more than a day or two non-stop. The people who are more Kapha, those who have sufficient reserve of or more reserve of fat in the body, or more muscular bulk people, they are more better for fasting. Why I'm telling you this example, one rule doesn't apply for all. If I use my example, I'm a so-called Pitta person, more inclined to, and I do get headaches if I fast without having at least some vegetable or a fruit. My condition, maybe I'm working, so we are working and whatever, so we need. So there should not be any process that you feel really taxing your body. So the idea of fasting based on dosha, well, authentic Ayurveda doesn't recommend it. But yes, there are practices, what we say, Ekadashi. Ekadashi is like 11th day of new moon, full moon. That fasting practice is fantastic. And the way we do it as professionals, busy into everything, and we still don't want to miss our daily exercise regime of an hour. So what we typically do is we do have this fruits like banana or mango group of things, which are more easy sources of, at least banana is an easy source of sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium. So, and a lot of drinking water. We don't like remain zero with nothing intaken. So that is a very effective method. It's modified, but it helps. Kapha people are more better for fasting.
Okay, good. Yes, Taras, you were just asking the question that Dr. Sreejit was answering. Or are you perhaps talking about intermittent diet? Okay, you can.
Intermittent is something that was the food culture of Kerala and India. People used to have food. I don't know, was it just about health reasons or was it about poverty in India? Not being sarcastic to in the Indian subcontinent, but my impression, what I have also understood from others, even the rich people in Kerala used to do that. They would have a so-called brunch kind of thing, 10:30-ish something, and definitely before dinner, before the dark or before night, they would finish off the dinner. So, well, did they do it because there was no electricity and they didn't want to struggle around finding chances to clean the vessels and etc.? I don't know. Or they didn't want to be making a risk of some food contamination in the darkness. We don't know those reasons, but it is a fact. 10 o'clock and 5 o'clock, or to 10 o'clock or 6 o'clock was the protocol before.
Okay. Thank you. And we have a next question from Anna. So Anna, you are now unmuted. You can ask your question directly.
Thank you, Valentina, and thank you for a great discussion. So I would like to ask you, maybe you can suggest any ways how we can raise an energy in our body.
Okay, the very first thing is to sleep early. Because that's what goes for a toss with professionals, and with the help of electricity, people tend to prolong and work longer. So that is one thing. The second would be to have the food, the last meal, at least 3 hours before the sleep time. So the body doesn't tax itself to process it. We all are slow towards the evening, obviously, because it's dark. Mother Nature herself is slow because that's how it is. So we need to make sure that the energy consumption activities, be it exercise in the night time, or be it the process of having the dinner late, or having a heavy to digest dinner, these need to be taken care of. And a sleep is always earlier the better, obviously, as much we can afford to make it. Early rising helps, but there's no point struggling to get up making an alarm system, because the body should get up automatically. This is what we need. And that itself conserves a lot of energy. The most important thing is to de-escalate or disconnect from social media. There are many things which are absolutely not very necessary. Uh, I'm not being against people socializing, but I do realize many times many of the social media things are just not life-saving any by any means. So I find it very useful, and because you end up burning your energy on issues of politics or whichever that you have no say and no influence over. An example. So the company of the right people, this is what I mean by social media. It's not about the technology. It's not about information. It's not about news. It's about spending the time or your attention given to people who don't act as energy vampires. This is my point. And the fact that energy vampire is a reality. There are many who drain us. So I think we just need to be selective about the association we make. It can be a toxic relationship with a partner or a spouse, a husband, wife, kids, whichever, family, friends. So why I'm using this non-structural or a functional entity is that in today's life and times, I think communication is a bit too much happening. Externalization is a bit too much happening. When I say this, I'm not being sarcastic or being unsocial or antisocial on these parameters. But when I spend 35 days in the dark room alone, absolute darkness and cut off from everything and everyone, whatever, I did realize the impact of that lasted in my body for nearly 5 years in a very deep manner, 4 years for sure. And that was possible because it was like kind of cut off. And that's why people go to caves for meditation, do Vipassana meditation kind of practices, which helps a lot. This is the functional part of it. But we can't deny of sufficient nutrition, having meal when we are really hungry, and having the next meal when we are hungry again. So that we don't eat before 3 hours of the last meal and not beyond 6 hours of the last meal. We don't want to overfeed, we don't want to underfeed. The most important thing that goes for a toss and missing is hydration. 750 ml of water we all need. And I understand, like in Europe, you will have winter and you don't need a lot of water. In India, we have terrible summer now, 35, 37, and we need a lot of water. I understand those variations of geography and climate and individual needs of being a professional athlete or not being a professional athlete. I understand all that. But typically, we should not feel thirsty. We should be hydrating ourselves enough that I don't feel thirst. For that reason, I would say if my body weight is 50 kilograms into 30 ml, so 1.5 liters of water is the upper I should be drinking. So a combination of the right kind of food or the timely food, even if more than the item of food, and of proper hydration with water or whichever other source. And of course, this energy plane of being with the right kind of people, or you decide with whom you want to associate with, and not spending the energy arguing in different platforms of social engagements, saves a lot of time and energy also.
Okay.
We say energy conserved is actually energy produced, no? So that is the concept.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I don't hear you, Valentina.
Sorry, quick question related to what you were just saying, which is in the chat. For detoxifying drink, is it better to have ginger raw or boiled?
No, not raw. It's like ginger, say 5 gram or 3 gram at least, and 5 grams of the coriander seed, and crushing. Like, no, you really kind of got it not a paste, but crushed, and boiling in water. You can decant it, but even if you chew it, is fine. You can decant it and have this water throughout the day.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But if you have hyperacidity or bleeding disorder, I would not recommend, because ginger is very heating potency.
Okay. Next question from Alexander Baikovsky. You can voice it yourself, Alex.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
Oh, okay. I thought I was muted. Okay. My question is related to diet, because more than 10 years I'm vegetarian, and the last few months I started vegan diet. I never like to eat meat or some animal products. Like, it came to me naturally. Does it mean that my dosha is in sync with my diet now? Because now I feel like better, with more energy. I don't have health issues. I don't know. I feel lighter. I feel like much better than I did before, because it was always stress for me when I had to eat meat, when my father told me that I should eat meat. Does it connect somehow with my natural dosha?
The very fact that you're feeling better after a change in the pattern of food is a clear and a easy proof that you have to continue with it if you don't feel anything adversely bad. So we say the human body has a fantastic urge to heal itself. So you are having the inner voice of nature, or we say God's voice, and that suited you and it still suits you. So you can definitely go on that, definitely on a personal note. On a general note, we do have communities in India who are fully vegetarian. I mean, there have been definitely thousands of that people called Brahmin community. They are born vegetarians and they die vegetarian. There have been many thousands who never ever had a meat in their life. They don't even know what a meat tastes like. But still, they were brilliant. They were warriors. They were intellectuals. They were very intelligent. And they were the top class of the society. Even if they were vegetarians. Not that the non-vegetarians were bad, but I mean, they were not really outcast or outrun kind of people. So, I mean, at a global level of that, I would say it is definitely possible to be vegetarian and still feel better. However, there are some muscle diseases where you need meat to get the muscle back. There are some professional requirements of being an athlete where your muscle bulk is needed. So I think then they go for the meat. But then otherwise for normal life, there are plenty of proteins by milk, by ghee, by green grams, plenty of sources of protein that are enough to keep the building blocks intact.
Also, what I noticed is the change of eating patterns, or change of like when you like to eat some not so healthy food when you're under stress, or when you overeat when you are under stress. Does it affect your? Does it correlates with these doshas again? Like that. Like change of pattern based on your current situation, like emotional.
Yeah, the emotional definitely have an impact, because I would say like this: just as a pregnant lady in the first or second month has a crave or has set of cravings for certain things, in similar manner, if the body is asking that yes, I need that, means it's God asking us to do that. Well, that doesn't justify for shots of vodka after vodka, or doesn't justify for other things which we know are inherently harmful in a big quantity. But for other normal kind of things, definitely yes, we can listen and follow the voice of body.
Great, thank you so much. I just have one more questions about ghee. You said that, and I heard and read that it is recommended. Also, my uncle make some ghee here from butter, but I saw the process and it looks like you over process the butter. Yeah, like you heat it and you like you stir it, like you do a lot of job with the butter, and it's not it loses its natural form. Like why it's so healthy? And also about vegan alternatives of ghee. Do we have something like that?
Actually, I don't know if there is a vegan alternative for ghee, but I have found that ghee is much superior than cheese, or superior to cheese when it comes to metabolism, because ghee is more easily accepted by the body, at least for the Indians at least. But I also know of many outside Indians who have stopped cheese. They went on to ghee and they're feeling very better. That is one thing. Coming to the point of processing, typically ghee is prepared when you melt the butter. It's just enough to melt it and the ghee is ready. We don't have to keep on heating it for a very long time. So that is the easy way of relating to it. Overheating is not actually needed. And so long as the smell and the taste of the ghee is there, it is just fine. The most important thing with ghee is its digestion. So whenever we have ghee, say 5 or 10 or 15 ml, if we can have 2 or 3 pinches of rock salt, it is easily digested. Because more than the consumption of ghee, its digestion is very important. And
So
yeah.
Yes. So there's no vegan alternative of ghee?
No, not that we know of, because already there are no much options other than ghee for us.
I'm planning to become vegan, but I got this ghee.
Ghee and gomasya.
Yeah. So
okay.
yeah, I mean, I don't know how to relate to it, but cow has been the central theme of Indian economy for centuries, and kind of every home had a cow situation. So
Let's have a few more questions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex. Yeah, let's have a few more questions. So we have in the chat here, Taras is writing. He has been a vegetarian for 24 years already. And he does the regular checkups of B12, and he notices like a lot of vegans and vegetarians often have this deficiency of B12, so we take it in supplements. So how often do you notice it in Indian people? Do they have the same issue?
actually, there are many people who have this deficiency situations in the blood reports. Even with vitamin D, I know that's not the question, like vitamin B12, many are deficient, no doubt. But the fact is such a controversial entity. We do have people who have no symptoms at all, and it doesn't really correspond to the blood work. There are people with deficiencies of these nutrients or micronutrients, and they are just fine. So it's very common in India to have this deficiency even of vitamin D, which is a surprise to many people because so hot and weather and everything, but it is happening. And same is with happening with, and then, but since there's plenty of options available for the water soluble vitamins or B complex in the form of pills or whichever other forms, so people easily compensate for it.
Good. One more question. I believe you saw it earlier, asked by Irina. So, is it harmful for women to take the ashwagandha because it produces testosterone? Is it usually it is said that this is a man fruit?
Yeah. No, actually not, because you see, even ladies have testosterone, even men have estrogen. I mean, all the hormones are there. It's just the percentage or the quantity that varies. So for that reason, I would say it won't cause a havoc of altering or topsy-turvy situation with the hormone levels. Definitely not. It can be had. So if it's an extract of ashwagandha, up to 1 gram is okay. If it's an extract, you can have 1 gram morning, 1 evening. If it's a plain powder, which is also available, it can be up to 5 grams morning, 5 evening. If it's capsules, 2 morning, 2 evening is also fine. So, which is most available in the market. So it's definitely something that can be integrated without challenging the hormones. No problem at all.
Okay, good. Perhaps one more. What is your attitude to burnout? What type of disease?
Yeah. Burnout is very, very common these days and times, because the amount of physical and psychological and emotional stress is very high, very, very high indeed. And I say that because people are unable to always process and burn that stress. So they rather get burned. There are a lot of stakeholders to it. There are a lot of interpersonal issues, a lot of issues related to what we describe as uh, unresolvable in their life, be it professional or personal, and they take it too hard into the system. So this is why burnout is very common. But burnout is a matter of not only physically correcting the energy levels, it's also a matter of psychologically conditioning oneself. And that makes it easier for them to uh, process it and come out of it. It's more than the physical entity, it has a huge emotional component. A very typical example, no, like you see, I don't know about your forefathers, but I would imagine the same like my forefathers. So nearly 150 years ago, I don't expect electricity to be in Ukraine. I mean, a bit unlikely, perhaps. At least 200 years ago, definitely nobody had electricity in India or Ukraine. Our ancestors did have enough time to rest and recover. When today's lifestyle and whatever realities that are inevitable and unescaping, we don't give enough rest to us. And that ends up in a lowered stress endurance scenario. We hang on, we prolong the fight until one day the body says, come on, boss, that's it. No more taking it. So this is very common. Nearly 2005, yeah, 2006, if I say, kind of 14 years ago, when I started involving with foreign patients quite a lot, I would find people or health seekers who are 70 plus, 65 plus. But after every 2 to 3 years became 60 plus, 55 plus, 50 plus. And now I even have people down the line 15, 16 years now, uh, as young as 20s, 23-ish, 24-ish burnout. So I don't know if it is enhanced awareness about their health or ill health, or is it a dangerous trend of today's society's inability to process stress, physical or emotional or even psychological. But it really baffles me, somebody at the age of 24, 25, who is not even working for the last 10 years or 12 years of normal professional life, to get into it's a dangerous sign. It's a medico-social situation than medical only.
Okay, too much of social media, let's just say, too much screen.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, we will be, dear participants, if you have more questions, then we can still ask. Otherwise, I will be slowly finishing because we are out of our time and we had a delay of over 10 minutes before starting. If you would still like to ask, please write. I have a question from me, the last, or almost the last one perhaps. So, you know, Ayurveda is a very old, ancient practice. So how does it innovate? You know, the whole society moves, the whole civilization moves.
How does it integrate? Is that what you mean?
Innovates. How do you innovate? What are the changes?
Okay. Yes. Yeah, it's kind of integration in one sense, or yeah, how do we modify or stay in tune or whichever. Yes, the fact is, definitely the truth or the scientific norms and scientific findings of Ayurveda are intact and still applicable, because the human physiology or anatomy hasn't changed a great deal, because 2000, 3000 years are not a great space of evolution time for the body to change. However, the world has changed externally quite a lot with logistics. So that is why it is still relevant. The innovation comes in modifying certain practices. Like in the past, people would have, like, okay, there's a herb, we boil it to a certain ratio, we reduce it to a certain ratio, we decant it, etc. One example. The same thing is now in the form of a bottled decoction ready-made available. So that was easy. You don't have to waste your time. Just mix it, dilute it. What takes about half an hour becomes like 1 minute or a bit more. The same thing, for the sake of traveling, has been made into tablet forms. Much more easier. The same thing, okay, tablets, your preservatives, why to take a chance, made into herbal sachets. So you are any part of the world, there's an airport, you have hot tea or hot water anyway, just dip it and make it like that. So this is one technology side of innovation, or the format of using it. The second is in terms of the procedures that are done. There are many innovations made in it in such a manner that it can be done at home. Like some procedures are something doable by a person in his or her home. So that becomes innovative. They will tweak the rules and science slightly a bit, if not break it. The last thing I would say is in terms of integrating, well, it's not exactly innovating, where we imbibe all the latest physics and biochemical or chemical, I won't say changes, but achievements of human life. If somebody is using X-ray, it's a physics, it's not a medicine. I mean, it's used as a medicine. If somebody is using blood test, it's not medicine per se, it's a chemical reaction or whatever we may call for that, or biochemical. So those things are easily imbibed in Ayurveda for detecting a disease when the human senses have a limit, to tell the prognosis, how better somebody can get, and to sometimes to assess the impact of Ayurvedic therapies. So this is how we are in tune with it. Old is gold, we understand, but it's nice to be updated. And that we do in our system in terms of the knowledge, as well as the experience that we want to give to those health seekers.
Yes, thank you. So like forehand massage stays forehand massage, yes? So nothing changes there, right?
Yeah.
And one of the innovation is that we can have a doctor online.
That is
This is a big innovation and move forward. We have one more question from Taras. If somebody can, from the team, unmute Taras again, or I will just read his question. Because he wrote something I cannot pronounce you. I'm afraid to pronounce.
I use Atreya's Guide to Ayurvedic Practice by Vaidya Vasant Patil in my practice.
Yes.
What manual could you advise, Atreya's? I can share that. That we share to all those who come to Atreya typically. The health tips, Atreya, let me just copy paste. I don't know if I can copy paste it here. The one we use for health tips, there is something mentioned about the health tips in our website, which is typically the one that we use for post Panchakarma recommendations. So I am trying.
I think this post Panchakarma.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So what I'm trying to do, I don't know if you see me, and yeah, I think. So I don't know where do I add it. I think it's here. I hope it is successfully happening. Yeah, I think it is going to happen. Yeah, so I have copy pasted that. It's called Panchakarma recommendation, but then it is it's post Panchakarma actually, and that's something anyone can do. The mentioning of the ginger, coriander water, and so many things are there in that.
Okay.
I don't know if it matches or meets the requirement.
Thank you from Taras. He already.
Yes.
So we will be finishing our useful conversation. Thank you, Dr. Sreejit, for having us here and having time for the second time for us.
Yeah.
The participants that joined and asked very interesting question. I think we will send a follow-up with some of the materials to you.
Absolutely fine.
Yes,
and the link of the video, the two videos.
And the two videos that we didn't have a chance to share because we also lost some time with the connect. And if you have more specific questions, you can always connect doctor directly. I will also leave the link to the website, and there you can submit the form with the question. And he has now enough time, no patience, and he can ask.
It's only studying than being with patients. So
now use the opportunity when he is more available and ask your questions. So thank you all for being with us. Hope you to see next times. We will come up with some other interesting topics. Or write us what you would like also to see, and we will organize it. And have a great weekend. And
please complete. I will wait for you to complete.
Okay, and yes, hope you got enough of good and healthy tips and ideas how to change it potentially and improve it. And yes, you would like to finish?
Both the links have been copy pasted. So I think it's easy with the coronavirus kind of relevant topic is there. It's like 6 minutes, another 7 minutes. I think that is something that can be done without our presence on the screen. That will be fine. If there's any questions coming up, it is fine. What has been now communicated, something I communicate to many people, because this is a very minimal knowledge of Ayurveda that is to be known. There are many topics which can be very precise, and this is like a general topic because immunity is the key in Ayurveda. If somebody has questions, they can email, and everything is easy.
Namaste. Thank you for your
Yes.
time.
Yes. Thank you for the time and attention. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah.
Okay, we will.
I'll leave the meeting now. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.